Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of Femina and Grazia's Virtual Beauty Carnival. We're here today, and for our session, I have a really special guest. Her bio reads keep it real, and Meera Kapoor has actually been doing just that, especially in the space of health, wellness, Ayurveda. She's also a crusader of Indian traditions and a promoter of holistic living. And of course, a very authentic voice who's vocal for local. Hi, Meera. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi Mehrnaz, I'm happy to be here.
How have you been doing?
I'm well, fortunately. I know it's been difficult for everyone, and if one isn't actually in the eye of the storm, you know people who are. So I'm happy that we're in a better place right now, and things are looking brighter than they were before.
Let's hope we continue that way.
Yeah.
So, jumping into this chat today, literally using the word jumping, have you accidentally plunged into this influencer life, or is this something you've kind of always been passionate about, but now you're actually sure that you can share all of this with the rest of the world and your audience, actually?
It's a bit of both. Um, I, when I started my Instagram page, for that matter, I started it, a little while after I actually got married because people were expecting me to have a public profile, and I actually didn't feel the need for it because I am quite private, and I was like, look, these are my personal moments. But then when I felt like, there is maybe a space for a voice like mine. And I thought, let me be as authentic as I can. That's where it started from. Where it comes to beauty and holistic living in that sense, it's always been a part of me. And I don't mean beauty in the sense of vanity as much as I mean in terms of health and wellness and something that's very integral to how we feel and how we look at ourselves. So when this entire thing started, I just said, let me put out the things that I really, really align with and see, how it goes from there. It kind of snowballed into being a beauty influencer, but there are things that I enjoy, things that I'm passionate about. So whether it's um, clean beauty, or it's Ayurveda, or it's slow beauty, or wellness and holistic living. It kind of started from there, and it's been gradually taking steam, and I'm really happy that people are liking it. I think now there's a space for it. It's no longer just how you look, but it's also how you feel. So and I believe in that. So I always wanted to be who I am, and I'm really happy that people have taken to it that way.
So tell me, how does it work? I'm sure as a mother with a really busy schedule, how important is multitasking? Because of course, the whole process of beauty and all of that, that's also multitasking. So this kind of how do you end up making time for all of this?
If it has to do with my work or it has to do with how I run my day, I particularly don't like to multitask. I actually like to focus, and I like to give time to everything that I do. I know the answer you must be expecting was, yeah, of course, we have to multitask. Yes, because there are only 24 hours in the day and you've got to get 100 things packed in. But I do pick a couple of things that I give focus time to. So kids or work or family or myself, I like to just take a couple of minutes. It needn't be an hour, 25, 30 minutes, and focus entirely on that. Of course, your mind is always processing 100 other things to do, and your kids never let you forget that they're around. By virtue of volume levels, you have to multitask. But I think you got to do it. But for me, I like to plan my day. I like to structure it. I like to give focus time to everything that I do. And sometimes it's a madhouse, and sometimes it works really well.
actually locked mine away in the room behind, and I told them to be like super silent, because
Mine are at
this is the
Nani's
most
house.
opportune time where they'll want something where I can't help them out.
Yeah.
So also, what I mean, you have to just deal with it, you know. Also, you've been quite an advocate of Ayurveda, you know. So
Yeah.
how was that also something that you've kind of been working with for a long time? Has it been part of your journey? How have you kind of how would I say, vocalized it so much? You know, because you have, it seems to me that you have so much personal experience and knowledge with it, you know.
You know, Ayurveda is a way of life. I feel that it you put a foot in the door and it just pulls you in, because there is so much there, which is logical, where you can find something to relate to in all spheres of your life. So it needn't just be medical. It needn't just be beauty. It's the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you lead your life, the kind of thoughts that you may have. And I think that this time, especially in the pandemic, has given us that reflection time to relook at the choices that we make in a very fast-paced world. And Ayurveda essentially is very slow to figure out, you know, we sometimes reach a point and never know the cause of why we actually reached there. So it may be a medical condition. We may be suffering from something like PCOS, and we don't really know, and girls do that. We don't really know why we got there. But you track back and you see, what was it that I was eating? What was the kind of lifestyle that I really had? Because PCOS is like a lifestyle disorder, right? It's diabetes and thyroid and cholesterol, which happen to us in middle age, isn't the only kind of lifestyle disorder we have. As girls, PCOS is something very real. And you see that you know, a certain kind of exercise, a certain kind of diet really helps, and it really tracks back to Ayurveda. And I've been into alternate medicine from as long as I can remember. My grandfather was a homeopath. So I've always looked at
Oh,
things in a
wow.
very different way. I've always looked at things as finding the root cause of something, and prevention is always better than cure. So now I think Ayurveda has actually found a channel, and various different channels actually, to connect with different people. So you may actually go to it for its beauty benefits, and somebody else may go to it because they would like to understand their own body better. Um, so I like the fact that it's a highly personalized approach. You have to understand yourself, you have to dig deep, and personality traits really, you know, decipher what your body does and how your body functions. And I found that absolutely spectacular, when we're running after symptoms but we don't know what's the cause. And there were so many people who were actually receptive to it, and I felt that, you know, it's the right time to speak about it. It's firmly rooted in our culture. There's no better time to be more proud of it than when health is wealth, and we can see it right now. So I felt that, you know, this is something that I wear very passionately on my sleeve and very proudly on my sleeve. And I'm happy that people can relate to it and connect with it.
So since we have established that I mean, a healthy balanced diet is one of the founding principles of Ayurveda. Coming to what you eat, right? Are there any superfoods that kind of make their way onto your dinner table? Something that you've experimented with maybe in the past few months?
You know, like you said about a healthy, balanced diet, I'm not a big believer in superfoods, because I feel that everything in the right quantity can be a superfood for you, and in excess or too less could be poison. So, you know, circling back to Ayurveda, it's essentially, it's not just what you eat, how much you eat, when you eat it, which season you like to have it in, what's suitable to your constitution, you know, your dosha. So, you know, I could say that amla is a superfood, but I'm a pith body type. So amla in excess will not work well for me because it's sour.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I could say that ghee is a superfood, but somebody who has a kapha dominant body type, it wouldn't do well for them at all, because it's only accentuating the heaviness that's present in their body. So superfoods, I think rather than superfoods, we need to see what foods actually work for our body type. And a good way to do that is starting to understand what is your dosha, or even, you
Right.
know, something simpler, like maybe you have something and you feel, you know, this isn't really working for me, because it's very easy to jump onto a superfood bandwagon. People may really like to
Yeah.
have chia seeds, but they don't see that sabja seeds does pretty much the same thing, you know.
That's pretty much the same job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that everything in moderation. I've actually, you know, rather than superfoods, I've actually, you know, it's more than the superfoods. It's like the plainer foods that I feel I've been experimenting with a lot more, because you're not getting everything so easily. It's not so accessible at this point of time. So I'm really enjoying cooking with things that are seasonal, using things that are seasonal, and actually following that balance.
Would you say that the whole concept of homemade works better for you? I mean, this is
I think
just
it works better
maybe
for
I'm just
everyone.
yeah.
I think homemade works better for everyone, because um, you know, I was reading a book on whole foods and in ancient traditions, and about holistic living. And you know, it's not just how you cook your food, but it's with what thought you actually cook your food. And I don't mean to make this all mumbo jumbo, but it did say that cooking food in a hurry lends that quality to the food. And if you're in a negative state of mind, that actually, you know, gets transferred to the food. Not to say that things outside are not cooked with care and love, but you know, because I'm raising a family and we're a young family, for me, I feel, you know, home is best, and home is best for everyone, because you know exactly what's going in there. You don't have the added junk, and you don't have the added you know, no goes and no nos that are there. And I actually feel now there are so many people who've opened up their own homes to cater to other people, so you can have the benefit of home cooked food and still feel like you're dining out. And it's kind of like a win-win. It's a best of both. But home food, I think it's not just cooking at home, but it's also reviving all those traditions that we had, maybe like, you know, the way that our grandparents used to preserve food. So pickling papad, or you know, I have gotten into finding those old recipes, and you know, sharbats and all those things which we found very uncool not very long ago. And it was like, I don't know. But making those things now, bail is in season, and I'm probably going to be doing that after this. So I think home is best, because you know, you're also involved, your kids see what you're doing, and that's actually the most important thing for me, to for us to set the right example for our children, and make sure that we, you know, we're making sure that they're going to be strong kids. We don't know what the world has in store. So it's keeping their immunity up rather than needing to boost it, you know, just making sure that whatever they have is in the right, made in the right way, cooked in the right way, in the right quantities.
So I also know that you're known to source a lot of ingredients, like literally when it comes to your own kitchen and garden. So do you think you have these kind of super ingredients that you kind of maybe just pick off from your, like I said, your kitchen and your garden, say maybe when it comes to hair care, for example, like something that you'd kind of concoct in your own kitchen and kind of use it?
You know, I did this last year. I actually made a hibiscus hair oil, because I had this beautiful hibiscus bush in my garden. And I've seen it as an ingredient in many oils. And I came up with, I was like, okay, let me experiment. This was the first lockdown. So everyone was basically finding something to do. So instead of banana bread, I guess I made a hibiscus hair oil.
Hair
And
oil, yeah.
yeah, so it was hibiscus, and it was essentially just coconut oil, hibiscus, and then I was like, well, let me just infuse everything that's good for hair in this. So I actually put methi seeds, I put kadi patta, I think I put a little bit of neem, as well as, you know, the hibiscus paste and the hibiscus leaves, boiled it up, and use that on my hair. So that's actually where this whole, you know, this beauty fascination happened for me, when I was probably 14. Making things on your own, and, you know, hair packs and body scrubs and all of those things. That's actually where this fascination came from, which is why I probably went into Ayurveda, to understand the benefit of everything in a more scientific manner.
So now Mira's garden and kitchen has all these amazing things which you can just kind of mix together and use and work.
You know, my neighbor actually,
So,
I'm really lucky. My neighbor actually is a naturopath. So he's grown. I'm really lucky, because I feel like I just totally hit the jackpot. He has this entire kitchen garden behind his home, and he's grown everything. He's grown even things like brahmi and spearmint, and, you know, kachi haldi. And so, I mean, I've just been in heaven. That's why all these kitchen things are probably coming more from his garden than mine.
This is somebody with a garden in Bombay?
No, we're not currently in Bombay. We're actually up north. So, you know, it's a little more like a row house. Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine this lovely garden in Bombay, and it's not, I'm not able to visualize it in the middle of all this concrete patches. But is there like something that you've kind of learned from your mom, like any of these kind of recipes and things you've made at home? Is there something that you've kind of that's passed on that kind of still works for you?
You know, it's I've been growing up watching my mom putting everything from the kitchen on her face. I think that has stayed with me, to keep it natural, to keep it clean. And obviously, you know, times change, so what we use changes. But I think in essence, it was to keep it simple. My mom always has had wonderful skin, and I've admired her for that. As well as her approach to life has always been very simple. I mean, she eats everything. She eats butter, she has cheese, she has bread, she has basically everything that we would be like, no, let's not have this or let's not have that. And, you know, many a time she's pulled me out of one of those crazy, mama, no, I'm not going to have this and I'm not going to have that. Because I feel she's so fit, she's so active. She's this super nanny who's able to run after 6 grandchildren with equal energy, I guess, because she didn't look at food as an enemy, and she didn't actually think about it that much. You know, she just had everything in a balance, and like balanced diet in like the simplest way, you know, without thinking about your macros, micros, or even the way we think of it today. Let's get our vitamins in, or let's eat seasonal, let's eat all of those things. She was just like, whatever's there, she would eat everything in a balance. She would have her chas, she would have tea, she would eat cheese, she would eat butter. She still does. And I think that's what I've taken from my mom. It's to be simple, to be easy in every aspect of your life. And I think it's taken me a while to get here, but I'm glad that I did.
And you will be passing on some of this information, not information, some of these wise thoughts to your daughter as well.
Definitely.
Plus all your little recipes and things and all of that.
She loves to see me putting on a hair pack or getting my hair oiled or a face pack. She loves seeing me doing all of these things, and I hope she takes those ahead. And I think one of the other things that our kids have really taken from us is our approach to fitness and how important it is in our daily life, because they are always hanging around when we are working out. They have learned how to do a lot of these things themselves. handstands with the help of a wall, or somersaults, or jumping jacks. I mean, that's something that I hope that my kids hold on to. I think we have tried to pass it down to them without pushing it on them. I think they see it, but I hope they do take it forward in their life, just for the sake of being healthy and staying fit, and treating your body with respect.
So you have managed to stay kind of disciplined throughout maybe a lockdown period with all your workouts and stuff.
I've been very disciplined in being disciplined and indisciplined. I cycle them very well. I give them both equal time. They're like both my children. So I have to be disciplined also, and I have to be indisciplined also, because then there's no fun in life. So yeah, I have fun and I eat what I like, and maybe sleep in a little extra and skip a workout here and there. But then when I'm back to it and I'm focused, then it takes a while for anyone to push me off that bandwagon. So I actually enjoy working out. It's a part of my life. I would rarely miss a workout. So even if it's a shorter one, I'd still do something rather than not do something. So yeah, I think I have been able to do it. Food has always been my weakness, but I make up for it with whatever I do when it comes to my workouts.
One last question to sum up a whole bunch of things that we've spoken about. That do you believe that we all need to now be collectively mindful in just the way we consume? I would say the last entire year, we've all moved towards a collective consciousness, about the way we consume. Whether it's not just about how the way we consume food, it's about fashion, it's about beauty, it's about products, it's about everything. What are your thoughts on this?
I completely agree with you. I think, we didn't realize how much excess we were indulging in. And that excess, like you said, isn't restricted only to food. It is into what we consume as consumers of fashion, consumers of content, consumers of, how we lead our daily life. Do we really need all of those things? Do we really need the next best makeup product? Do we really need it? And I think we've gotten that time, I think, now to reflect on that, which has really helped, because this clean beauty movement or the slow beauty movement, there have always been people who've been championing that, and they've been lending their support to it. But now, because for the lack of going anywhere, we realize that we actually don't need so many things. We needed all of these things only when we were in a social space, when it matters about what other people think of us. And likewise, I feel, if you take something like makeup, there's a reason why skincare has really shot up in sales versus makeup, because people are learning to look after themselves right now rather than care about how others perceive them. It's more about how you feel about yourself rather than how somebody else feels about you. And I think being home and
automatically leads to mindful consumption, I guess.
Exactly. So do we really need all that much, on a day where you really don't have much to do in the lockdown, and you actually go and empty your cupboard and see, okay, let me clean up my stuff today. Let's clean up stuff and, see what I really need and what I don't need. And when you see how much stuff you have, and you figure out that, what was I hoarding all of these things for? So coming back to excess, I think, we were in a place where there was excess even with food. You were indulging too much, or you were dieting too much, or eating too much of healthy food. It eventually comes back to a balance. You don't need everything. And it does come from a community of consumerism and people always wanting to sell something to you. But now I think, influencers are at this space where they're consumers and people who are influencing you to go and buy. And this is something that I've said time and again, that use your influence for the right reasons. You don't need to sell something to somebody every day, but letting them know that you don't need something may be more important than telling somebody that you do. So I think, I am really happy that there's been a positive change. I hope it stays this way. I hope it's not some seasonal thing that comes and goes and we're back into excess like the roaring 20s after prohibition. But but
Like I can say, we're
let's hope
literally
for the
living
best.
one day at a time right now. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Meera. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mehrnaz. Enjoyed it.